G'day, legend. Welcome to the Noob Spearo podcast. If this is your very first time, you're in for an absolute treat. It is a father-daughter combo today. An avid, very well-regarded marine biologist in Marcus Lincoln Smith, and his daughter Emma Lincoln Smith is an retired Winter Olympian, former skeleton racer. Both of these guys are avid spearos, very knowledgeable, very thoughtful people. And Emma has a new project called Ocean Rangers Apparel, which we talk about. I love seeing people do new stuff in our spearing world. So we're going to explore that a bit today and hear a little bit about their lives and also some of the research that Marcus has done and dialing in on some of their favorite species to hunt as well as their tips to hunt them. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Again, something different, a father-daughter combo. But every week I'm interviewing spearing legends from around the planet, just people who froth on the spearfishing lifestyle. And there's always nuggets in these things. So thanks for tuning in and subscribing. Absolutely love it. A couple of things on the spearing calendar. I'm getting ready for the WA Spearfishing Nationals. And in order to prepare myself physically better than I have in the past, I have put together a 50-day spearfishing program. It's called Spear Ready, which will help you to be as prepared as you can be to make the most of a trip of a lifetime. So if you want to do it, we've already kicked off. We started on the 1st of March, but if you are interested in doing it, go to noobspearo.com/spear ready. Still looking for people to help give us feedback because this is absolutely the first round of this thing. I am one of the crash test dummies as well as Tom, because him and I are going to compete in the WA Nationals together. Absolutely looking forward to it. If you want to come and test out this program with us, go to noobspearo.com/spear ready and sign up. We'd love to hear what you think. Also, guys, coming up in the next few weeks, it's the Panama Spearfishing Zoom call Q&A with the local guide, Robert Schmalz. If you listen to last week's interview, you might have an idea who Robert is. But on the 13th of March at 8 p.m. Brisbane time, and like if you're in New Zealand, it'll be 11 p.m., which might be a bit late. Californians, it'll be 3 a.m., which is way too early. But if you're in Florida, it's 6 a.m., and if you're in Australia, it's probably doable on a weekday night. But come and find out about going spearfishing in an absolutely epic location. And Robert has got all the ins and outs. He's got a couple of sort of modalities for planning these trips, and he is a full-on expert frother in that part of the world, and he is obsessed with it himself. Lots of different options, and so I'd encourage you to join us on the Zoom call. Go to noobspearo.com/Panama to register. If you can't make the live call, then I can send you out a recording of it after. Again, that's noobspearo.com/Panama. Hey, let's get into today's episode with Emma and Marcus Lincoln Smith. Here we go. Danny says, Adreno, you guys are ahead of the game. Price is very competitive. Customer service is fantastic. Speed of delivery from your warehouse is the best I've ever experienced. And everything I have purchased was in stock. Great experience. Highly recommend these guys for anything to do with what happens and what you need to get under the water. That review from Danny. Check him out at adreno.com.au. These guys do a fantastic job outfitting noob spearos from all over, particularly Australia. But check them out at adreno.com.au. You can save $20 on every purchase over $200. Not only can you use it online, but you can also use it in-store. They've got 2 stores in Brisbane. They've got Gold Coast, Sydney, Melbourne, Perth. Check them out. They are doing good things. adreno.com.au. Are you US-based, looking for freediving, spearfishing gear? Neptonics is the best. Their online website's so easy to use. If you've got any questions, Jerry and the team answer questions via phone, email. Anyway, they've got an easy contact form on the site. These guys are absolute legends, and if they sell it, they believe in it, they back it, they use it themselves. It's tough gear that works. Visit neptonics.com. Use the code NOOB10 to save 10% on any order at neptonics.com. That's right. Use the code NOOB10, N-O-O-B 10 on your next order. Save 10% at neptonics.com. In a world of cancel culture, we need to be bold and stand up. Ignore the self-censorship, have a laugh, and poke the bear, or in this case, a shark, with Fuck the Tax Man. Listeners get a free hat of their choice when they spend over $100 at noobspearo.com/taxman when they use the code at noobspearo with designs that capture the frustration of having your fish taxed. You'll love the FTTM long-sleeve UV blocking fishing jerseys, t-shirts, hats, and more. Visit noobspearo.com/taxman. Use the code noobspearo to score a free hat of your choice when you spend $100 or more. Again, go to noobspearo.com/taxman. All right, g'day guys. I'm joined by two legends today. It's a father-daughter combo, which is an interesting one for the podcast, and maybe a first. It's Marcus and Emma Lincoln-Smith. Emma has recently founded an apparel company that celebrates her love for spearfishing. It's called Ocean Rangers. And both of these two love their spearfishing. Marcus is a marine biologist. Is that right, Marcus? Or
Yeah.
And absolute Sydney Spearo froths by the sounds of it. Have I got that right?
We try.
True.
Yeah. Emma, you said you guys have both had sort of very interesting lives, I think. But one thing you said was you always return to the ocean as a sort of a sense of regrowth about it. I think was what you said, or something similar. Did I?
Yeah.
Walk me through that.
So I guess I've always had a pretty high flying life with my sport, and then my new job, which I've been in for the last 2 years, I'm a firefighter, and it's a pretty stressful environment, and you see some pretty heavy things, and just to be able to go back to the ocean and just keep it really simple, and even if you don't go and shoot a fish and get your dinner, just being in that environment for me is just, it just centers me and just keeps me really calm and simplifies things, and it's just my home pretty much. It's I need it.
Yeah, love it. You believe it or not, you're the fifth Spearo firefighter I've chatted to on the podcast.
Because we have a few days off in between shifts, so it's nice to have lots of hobbies.
I think a lot of ex-military people, emergency services people are definitely attracted to probably the physiological benefits of spearfishing as much as the physical well-being aspects to it too, because it is a place that's not really people-centered, and it's cool to be immersed in an environment, I think, where you can shake some of that stuff off. Would that be sort of fair?
Exactly, yeah, and you just get away from it, and you can just, as you say, be on your own, and you don't have to be around people. And I used to be much more into surfing, but it's just so busy trying to get waves now, especially at Narrabeen. And so just going for a dive, it's being on your own, just being in the ocean. It's nice. I need it after those big shifts.
Mm. And Marcus, marine biology, you've been doing it. I think I read one of your papers that was cited from 1989 or something. You've been doing it a little while.
Yeah, I went to uni, did honours looking at artificial reefs. Then I had a job with the New South Wales Fisheries as a temp. I didn't have a full-time job, but I stayed there for about 2 years. And during that time, I learnt so many things from the guys that I was with. Worked on projects in Botany Bay. Worked with a very famous guy called David Pollard, and we looked at marine reserves and artificial reef issues. Then I went back to uni, did a master's on artificial reefs and looking at methods for surveying reef fish, using scuba equipment. And then it's just gone on from there. So I started my own business, and I've been running that since 1985.
Wow.
But I'm pulling back a little bit. I'm not getting as much things done now because I just prefer to relax and do some other things, like go diving and watch my daughter's amazing achievements. Yeah.
You brought up a bunch of talented daughters, as I understand it.
Oh,
you got two Olympians. I think they were the two sisters in the summer and winter games, respectively. So that's pretty amazing to raise some strong women like that, I think. So it speaks volumes.
Oh, yeah, they're very strong. And Vicky, my wife, and I, we were sort of sports groupies for over 10 years, traipsing around the world, either in the snow or somewhere around a swimming pool, watching them compete. Some of the best times of our lives, getting to travel and seeing all of the amazing things that they were doing. Even when they weren't winning, it was still an amazing experience.
Yeah, the experiences of everything. So, Emma, as I understand it, you're a skeleton racer. Holly's a water polo player. Between the two of you, jeepers, there must have been some hectic fights when you were teenage girls, I'd imagine.
Sure was. We used to practice WWF, you know, when we were kids, and I always won. So just when Holly hears this, she'll probably want to punch me. But anyway, I
didn't know what skeleton racing was. I jumped on and I saw your video in the Atlantic Olympics. I think it was 2010 maybe, and I didn't really know anything about it. So if 5G is what you're exposed to, head first going down like a luge type bobsled style track, and you're head first, and it's just you, and it's a sprint start. I was like dumbfounded. I was like, this is friggin' crazy.
It's pretty stupid, to be honest. But so I started doing beach sprinting. So I always had really good, I was fast, and then got talent selected and just happened to, land myself in this sport. And it's the same track as the bobsledders go down. It's head first on your stomach. You get up to over 140 kilometers, and it's a pretty amazing feeling. There's not really many sports, I think, that, compare to the speed and just how good it feels when you have a good run. When you have a crash, it's not so much fun. It's pretty scary, and it hurts. The ice isn't really smooth. It hurts. It burns. But it also, when you do have those good runs, it's like diving. Like when you spend most of the time out there catching nothing or seeing nothing, and then you have those few dives where you just clean up and everything just works, and it's the same. You just really appreciate those good days.
Is that something you're addicted to? I call it the flow state. It's where where it all clicks and everything makes sense, and there's no noise because you're just 100% in the moment. Is that something?
Exactly. It's that hesitation, I think, in anything that that stops you from succeeding. And the same as spearfishing, if you hesitate or you overthink something, your brain's going to be always your biggest deterrent at the end of the day. So if you can quieten everything, I just find that your body just takes over, and everything becomes easier. So and that's sort of how I try and do everything work, those big fires and all those sorts of things. Just shut your mind up and just focus, on doing the little simple things right, and everything comes together. So
love it. That's an amazing perspective. So, I mean, how long did you guys start spearfishing together? What did it look like? And Marcus, how long have you been spearfishing?
Well, I started with a broom handle and some crab spears that I wrapped around and walking around Sydney Harbour, spearing leather jackets, basically. And that was from when I was about 9 years old. Then I used to do a lot of swimming, so I was always in the water, actually down at Watson's Bay Baths, and then I kind of progressed to putting on a mask and swimming around with that wooden spear, getting leather jackets from the water, and then just progressed from there. I had a very good friend who we kind of taught each other badly, but
blind leading the blind.
Yeah, sure. Yep. And we had a little tinny that we used to take out. So collecting mussels, spearing a few fish, mainly red mowong at those days. Yeah. And then it just progressed from there. So it's been a long, long love affair for me with the water and with spearing. And scuba diving too. I mean, I do that for my work, and I really enjoy that, but you don't have that sense of freedom that you get free diving.
I started with scuba diving. I went through the recreational instruction route when I was a bit younger. No one wanted to hire an 18-year-old instructor, funnily enough, though. It was a bit of a gimmick at the time in New Zealand where I grew up. I think I was 18, and the same year I got my instructors. 10,000 other people in New Zealand got their scuba diving instructor's license. I think 1,000 people are employed from one end of the country to the other in the industry. So it was a little bit underhanded, I thought. But having said that, it gave me a lot of confidence as a young man, and I developed an immense appreciation for the underwater world. But I had the hunting orientation from the start, though. Like crayfish in New Zealand were just Like I just endlessly sort of enjoyed doing that. So
there's a lot of craze in New Zealand. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
We just got back last week.
Yeah, I remember you saying.
We didn't unfortunately get to do any spearfishing, but we went looking for craze and got some good ones. So
pack horse or just your southerns?
Couple of pack horses, and then we all got a couple of what were the other ones? Sorry,
the southerns or
yeah.
I mean, pack horse are your easterns anyway, and your southerns are your southerns. But cool. Yeah, it's a shame you didn't get out to the Three Kings. I've done it once. It's an amazing place, isn't it? Have you guys been there before? Or
we went there. That's where we went, but we didn't get to dive there like proper spearfishing. We went line fishing, so it was just a bit rough, unfortunately. But
and the weather was not very kind.
No,
and the water temperature dropped from 22 degrees the week before to 17 the week we were there. So we weren't prepared for that.
No.
Did you have your 3 mil suits or did you have 5 mil suits?
Yeah,
oh,
3 mil suits.
Yeah, she's a bit rugged and like I don't know. I start wimping out under 20 in a 3 mil suit, to be honest.
It was pretty cold. We were a bit shocked when we first jumped in.
Yeah, right. What about you, Emma? How did you start spearing? Did you get into it with your dad, or what did that look like?
So obviously Dad got me into it. Always we grew up in the water, like, you know, every weekend was down in the ocean, and I used to watch Dad bring back, you know, these big fish, and I'd be like, oh, wow, like, you know, just in awe of the whole process. And then he got me a hand spear and took me out, and my first fish was a little red mowong, and, you know, I was so excited, you know, shooting it with my little hand spear, and then started to learn the species and, you know, what we could take and what you can't take, and the size limits and bag limits and all those sorts of things. And like, I really took the time to know what I could and couldn't take. And so I went out there with a real purpose, like, okay, I really want to catch kingfish, or I really want to catch a drum or whatever it was, and just slowly, you know, figured out what I wanted to go after, and watching him, you know, like how to hunt, and you know, you got to be really patient and just sort of, you know, understand that, like, you're in their world and you got to act a certain way around them. They're not just going to present themselves in front of you. Sometimes they do, but like, so just learning how to be a better hunter was quite a challenge. And then over time, I just sort of was able to get out a bit more, especially once I retired from sport. And then I guess really got into it probably 10 years ago, and I've just been a bit obsessive about it, as most spearos are. Like, I'm frothing always to get out. Like, I drive him insane because I'm always like, let's take the boat out, or let's go up, you know, up the coast or something. But I just love it.
How important do you guys think it is for kids to experience the natural world? And because I personally think that's how conservationists are born. It's through the active pursuit of being in the environment, experiencing things. I think taking life is also a really part of, like, especially if it's done in an intentional way, teaching people about responsibility and things like that. What do you guys think?
Look, I agree. I think I've got 2 little grandkids now, Emma's little niece and nephew, and, you know, it's just wonderful just showing them the natural world, not really overdoing it, just letting them sort of discover things themselves, and then give them a guiding hand. And as they get older, well, you know, hopefully they'll get more and more interested, and we can teach them more and more. So I guess with my biological background, I can explain some of the things, identify some of the species. And Emma's mum, my wife, she's a very good drawer, so she's draws, you know, really good fish and so forth. So it's all part of the family thing, and it's a real buzz seeing the kids learning and being interested, and I hope they never lose it. You know?
I think it's really important. Like, you know, every time you take, like you mentioned, taking a life, you know, like, I don't take it lightly either. Like, when I go out, I'm very grateful to the fish. Like I actually say like thank you to the fish when I've killed it, because it's, you know, you appreciate where your food comes from rather than just going to shop and getting it and going home. And, you know, and people often ask me like, oh, I don't know how you can kill, you know, that fish. And it's like, well, I don't take it lightly, but, you know, I'm very grateful, and it's a very selective process. And, you know, you catch it, you clean it, you cook it, you do all the steps. And I think when you understand that that's what it takes to put something in front of you, that you really appreciate it. And it's, you know, there's nothing better than having your own cooked meal that you've caught, cleaned, cooked, all those, you know, things.
100% relate. I think, you know, you guys are familiar with anthropomorphism, you know, like, you know, the Bambi effect, where we people think that maybe nefariously we've put human characteristics onto animals to stop people from wanting to hunt, and we've seen the rise of vegan activism and things like this. You know, from a lot of people's perspective, though, there's a hierarchy of animals and the level of relatability we have to them. And a lot of people think that fish are still like relatively, you know, like we don't ascribe personality to them. But it's funny, like we get in the water and you spend all this time with them, you actually do see that they have personalities.
They do,
but we still take their lives. We just do it with that level of awareness about it. And it's kind of weird. Like people think that we're somehow more removed from them because we're killing them, but it's like, so it's almost like the reverse is true.
Yeah, 100%. And like, you know, I often will be in the water and I'll see a little fish, and you sort of, you know, like you're almost having a little moment with them, and I just find myself waving to them and saying goodbye rather than putting them on the end of my spear. Like I like to see them in the water just as much as I like to take them home for a meal. So I think appreciating that environment that you're in rather than just taking from it all the time is really important. Yeah.
That journey of mastery that you walked through, Emma, with like species acquisition. So first you sort of identified some of the steps that I think about, which is like, you know, IDing it, recognizing what it is and what it looks like in the water, recognizing, you know, what size you want to take, and then taking it and working out how to take it, like what strategy, a hunting approach is going to work best for it, or how to arouse its curiosity. And then you might get lucky and shoot one, and then eventually it becomes a more intentional process, and you kind of know what you're doing, and you can choose or not choose to take that fish. And you walk through this journey with it. And I always think of spearfishing as that journey of mastery. But I think another part of it is you learn a lot more about your age of fecundity, like reproduction and things like that. And then you start to have a broader understanding of how it fits in the marine ecosystem. And then, you know, it's a funny little journey we go on, I think.
It is, yeah. And that's something Dad's been really good to help me with. Like, you know, we'll look at a fish or something and he'll be like, oh, that fish is probably 50 years old, or, you know, and you're like, wow, like, you know, that you sort of don't realize these things. And then when you realize that, you really appreciate, you know, taking that life. Like that thing's been here for longer than me, you know, and you sort of, you just sort of have to think about what you're doing a bit more rather than just going and shooting things and, you know,
we did some aging studies on red molong and found that they live to at least 40 years.
Wow.
So they're hanging around out there for quite a long time, and makes you appreciate, you know, their environment a lot more.
They're quite vulnerable to us too, if we're honest as well. Like They're not a particularly smart or elusive species, but when you're starting, I personally think that they're a great target species because you know people aren't going to target them forever. Like, and you get more and more selective about when and where you take them. I think as long as you don't have a seared conscience, or you know, like, or are deliberately obtuse. Like I think, but there are people like that. I mean, you know, there's all types.
Yeah.
I want to ask you some more controversial, bigger questions, Marcus, about fisheries management and stuff. I'm hoping to stir up the pot a wee bit. But
I'll do my best.
Before we get there, we're talking about this journey of mastery with species, Emma. I particularly pointed us in that direction because, like, some of the shirts you've started designing are about celebrating some of the species that you love to take. And I noticed two of the ones you've already sort of picked out and you already have up are a tribute to a sort of Mulloway, and then also the yellowtail kingfish. Talk to me about, first of all, the Mulloway. What for you, like, what's the appeal of them, and why did you want to make a shirt about the Mulloway?
So the Mulloway would be, without doubt, my favourite fish to hunt. I feel like you have to get into a whole different zone to hunt a Mulloway. You don't just, sometimes you might just stumble across one. I've speared Mulloway before. I've just found one, but like you actively go out there to shoot Mulloway. You have to learn all the spots where they're in, and then it's a real hunting process. And when you see one in the water with its diamonds down its back, and and you just, it's almost intimidating. Like you sort of see it and you're like, oh my God, like they're so big and they're so dominant. And then when you spear one, like I don't know, I just get a real buzz out of it. Plus I love eating them. But for me, they're just the ultimate hunting fish, because you're in a whole different zone. Like I find just before I get in, like I have to almost, like I sort of go into like a Zen sort of thing, like where I'm sitting there and I'm just like breathing, and then you get in and you just like you're trying not to breathe loudly, and you're just like kicking really slowly, and it's just a really like different way to hunt, as opposed to just going out and jigging and like using your flashes and burling and all these things. And I just really enjoy that side of hunting. And it's very different to hunting any other fish, I think.
I have spuriously sort of taken them at times, often in not deeper water, but they can be taken and are often taken really shallow. And as you probably know, I don't like to give everything away. But like they are a special fish. I have noticed at times that there'll be bark missing off them, like they've been scraped up and roughed up. And my suspicion, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this, is that one of their main predators is the grey nurse. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. In the old days when grey nurse were on the schedule for the game fishermen, they used to catch soapy jewfish, the little ones, and use them as live bait. I've heard stories of that, and one very good game fisherman used to go and fish in the Merk, where they used to discharge the sewage right at the cliff face, and he and his crew would catch, half a dozen soapy jewfish, take them out and use them as live bait. And so, I'd completely go along with that. They occupy very similar habitats. They like caves and sort of similar sort of depths. Actually, they both extend out into quite deep water and also into shallow water. I've done a bit of research on grey nurse sharks, and we've found the little pups, the really small grey nurse, in very, very shallow water. And I think they go in there because I think there's a bit of cannibalism that goes on as well. So they get away from the big ones, and they use very shallow gutters as nursery habitat. So I'd go along with that, and I know great whites chomp into grey nurse now and again as well. So they're. But I wish I saw as many dewies as I see grey nurse, to tell you the truth.
100%.
I think they've made a big comeback, which is really pleasing. Yeah.
Well, we needed, I understand that big rain is great for an uptick in jewfish population, but the difference, or the time period between when you have good rain and then when you start to see mature, what do you understand about growth rates with jewfish, and sort of how is their population affected? What are the main things contributing to the decline in numbers?
Well, I've done a fair bit of work in estuaries, sampling fish and other things, and I'm quite concerned that in some places the prawn trawlers are picking up a lot of very, very small Mulloway, and I think the the recreational fishing havens that they have, where there is no more commercial fishing, I think is a really good thing for the Mulloway, particularly places like Sydney Harbour, which is quite deep, Hunter River. They're very important nursery habitats, and the fact that now there's no prawn trawling in there is really good. But nevertheless, I mean, offshore fishing, if you want to, and the jewfish are around, you can catch quite a lot, much more than your bag limit, because they're schooling and they're cruising around there, and that's something that people have to be mindful of.
Their swim bladders can't cope with the rapid coming up the water column, and I understand that their catch and release rate, mortality rate, is just woeful.
Yeah, well, it depends where they're caught, obviously, but in deeper water, absolutely, you're right.
Some people have argued that we should remove the size limits for line fishermen so that there's no catch and release. What do you think of that?
I'd be very wary about that. I think the way we're going now is pretty good. I think there's a lot still to learn, but I think catch and size limits are really important. The size limits really should be related to onset of maturity as well, so that if you've got a size limit that's less than the breeding size, then that's not particularly helpful. But if you allow them to have, it's probably not the right word, but if they can spawn for 2 or 3 years without being taken, I think that's something to move towards. But we need to do more research, and I know a fair bit of that work is being done now.
Can you just fill me in on their life cycle? Like, where do they spawn, and how does that operate as it specifically with dewies, if you could? I don't know enough about them, and I would love to be less ignorant.
Yeah, me too. They're pretty mysterious. I haven't directly done research on them.
Okay.
But from what I understand, they're inshore spawners, unlike species like brim, which shoal up on ocean beaches and spawn. The Mulloway, they move in and out of the estuaries, and I suspect they're spawning very close to the shore. And as I said a bit earlier, you see a lot of the really small juveniles in the deeper estuaries. So my guess is they'd be spawning close to the estuaries or adjacent to them, where the currents will bring the eggs in. I don't know much about their age structure or when they become reproductively active, but there's plenty of people who are working on that. So you'd need to speak to them about that.
Hey guys, not sure how you stay hydrated out on the boats on those long days out on the water, but staying hydrated is absolutely critical to good equalisation and looking after your body, making sure you're not doing those awkward one-legged kicks to the surface when one leg cramps out on you. Go to aqualite.com.au and get yourself a box of sachets. You just simply add them to water. It's less than $1.28 per serve. Cheaper and healthier than any other sports drinks on the market. Aqualite will make a difference in your spearfishing. Check it out at aqualite.com.au. Use the code NoobSpearo to save 10% on any order. Check it out. Aqualite, made in Western Australia. Oldmanblue.com.au. You can't cheat experience. You can't fake passion, and damn, Old Man Blue can make gear that will last and stand the test of time. Check it out at Old Man Blue Dive on Instagram. Are you in the market for a new spear gun? Killshot Spear Guns has got blue water wahoo tuna guns, open track spear guns, enclosed track spear guns, rear handle enclosed tracks. Check them out at killshotspearguns.com. Even better, I've got some good news for you. You can save $30 on any Killshot Spear Gun at killshotspearguns.com. Use the code NOOB. If you're in store, just say, "Crikey, mate," or say Shrek from the Noob Spearo sent you, and you'll save $30. Ed Martin at killshotspearguns.com. Check them out. Emma, A broad question. Still a shit fight one, though. I like to be controversial sometimes, so excuse me. Do you think that a Spearo's ethics should be informed purely by bag and size limits, or do you think we should be a little bit more nuanced than that in our understanding and the way we go about conducting ourselves spearfishing?
I think it's an individual responsibility to understand your environment and, you know, take the time to kind of, I guess, be, you know, aware of how fragile our system is. And, like, you know, I think as human beings we have a bit of a responsibility to be not, we shouldn't be so I guess, what's the word? We should
Casual,
be
cavalier.
Yeah, like, I think we're just so focused on, you know, on what we can take in that moment, and, you know, that down the track it doesn't matter. But I think we have a responsibility to look after the things that are living with us in that moment. And, you know, like, I want my children to be able to go out and catch fish and see fish, and, you know, and their children and down the line. And I think every person, not just Spearo, has a bit of a responsibility to take care of their environment and to be aware of, you know, of how fragile it really is. So
yeah,
I just think, like, it's not okay to kind of be really complacent with things, and to, you know, to just take. Like, I think we as humans should be a bit more wary of how fragile our ecosystem really is, I guess.
Could I just have a comment there that
100%.
I think the bag and the size limits are important. I think spearfishermen, spearfishers need to think about where on the body of a fish they're spearing it, and understand, and not take rash shots which are going to wound the fish and potentially kill it without a capture. There are some fish like wahoo, for example, Spanish mackerel, spears tear out very quickly, very easily. Other fish, you've got nice big fat scales, you've got a bit better chance because it's more holding. And I think that's something that the more mature divers can pass on to people that they take out. Say, look, don't just have a shot, have a think about where you're placing your spear, and also you know, euthanizing them, I guess, once you've shot them, to make sure that you know, they don't suffer for too long. You do it as quickly as you can. So, you know, I would think that's something that as Spearos we should all be passing on to people coming through. And if you see people just taking rash shots, say, listen, that, you know, that was silly. You know, you've got to think about it a bit more next time. I like
it. That's a good thing.
He was always pretty firm on me if I took a shot and, you know, was a terrible shot and it ripped out, you know, he'd like, well, why'd you take that shot? You know, you weren't in a good position. And I really appreciate that, like, now, because, you know, I don't want to hurt a fish and then, you know, not even get to take it home. Like, I'm pretty calculated with my shots, as we both are, I guess. And, you know, like, it's also good because if you get a really good shot on it, you know, if there's more sharks around at the moment, there's less chance that a shark's going to grab it or whatever. Like, you know, the more calculated you are with that shot, the more likelihood you are you're going to get to take it home. And when you lose a good fish, there's nothing worse, like
100%.
seeing it swimming off. It's like, it's the most horrible feeling, and you just, you don't want that to happen.
Well, I mean, I probably lose a lot more fish than I might necessarily do, because I make sure I line them up, and you know, if the fish swims away or if it's a bit too far away, I don't like taking really long shots. And I think that's something that, you know, people should be really cognizant of when they're going after fish.
Yeah, I was going to say, I had two thoughts about that. One is like, when I started, I tried to save money and buy a cheap spear gun. And I think cheap gear, like, I'm not saying like don't save money and be careful with your money and stuff, But sometimes there are rubbish spear guns on the market and they are just crap. They're not accurate. They don't do the job, and no one should sell them as far as I'm concerned because they just injure fish. I had one, so I know. And I ended up, the poor man pays twice, they say. And so I think there's a bit of responsibility on people to sell good gear. And then the other reason I think some of us take those hit and hope shots, it's a bit of a scarcity mindset. There's this idea like I've only going to get one chance, and maybe you will only get one chance. But if you, it's not worth the payoff. Holding up, fish that have been poorly shot. I think sometimes is sometimes you'd rather just see it go. I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes you wish you'd taken that shot as well, though. Like I still think about fish where I'm like, there was a big cobia a while back, and it was probably 7 years ago, and I still think about that fish. I just watched it swim off, and I'm like, I could have had a shot, but I didn't. But it's one of those things. Like,
there's a question I ask most guests. It's like, what's your most memorable fish? And the first thought that most spearos have is not the most memorable fish that they've taken. It's the most memorable fish that they missed out on, because those ones stay with you, I think. But that's part of that journey of mastery too. It's like, they become more desirable the more time and effort you've spent in trying to hunt them.
We've all had those experiences, and it haunts you. Like I lost a really big dewie a while back, and I speared it, and it got off. I don't know how it got off. It got off, and I still think about it. Like I just remember just sticking my head out of the water and just swearing, and just I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to get back into shore. I just but
devastated.
It's just that kind of sport, isn't it? You just you can't let some things go. It's an obsession. It really is.
Marcus, one of the articles or bits of research you've done and really intrigued me, it was quantifying or understanding the extra pressure that an area will face given increased population. So I put that awkwardly, but basically like heavily populated areas have heavily depleted fisheries. Talk to me about that if you can, and what that research looked like and how you feel about it now.
Oh, well, I mean, basically it comes down to comparing sites that aren't heavily fished with sites that are, or even intermediately fished. And look, it's actually very complicated because fish will learn to avoid people. So there might be a perception that there's fewer fish when they're just buggering off. Yep. So you really need to be really, really careful about that. But there's been some really interesting techniques that have started to be used. One that we use is called a BRUV, which is a baited underwater video. So you basically have a video mounted in a housing. You have it attached to a frame, and out the front of the frame you have a piece of PVC arm with a lump of fish in a mesh bag.
Okay.
So we can actually correct for the presence of a diver by using something that doesn't have a diver, and you can use it in places where it's too deep to practically dive. I've used it on the Northwest Shelf looking at pipelines to see what sort of fish are gathering around the pipelines.
Wow.
So and you get amazing footage that way of tiger sharks and big cod and that sort of thing.
Yeah, cool.
So look, it does come down to research. It's not an easy fix to understand. And maybe we have to err on the side of being a bit precautionary in terms of management sometimes, just to make sure we don't overdo it.
There's that old saying, nature does not exist in a vacuum. And I think the confounding variables with testing anything in the ocean make it very problematic. Was the reason you thought about that, was that due to that research that was done in the Med where they essentially measured the distance that fish stayed away from spearos with continuing pressure. Because I read an article about that.
I'm not familiar with that article. Okay. I'll have to get you to send it to me.
I'll try to,
Yeah, a lot of it evolved in New Zealand, and I reviewed a few papers early on where New Zealand's have been looking at that idea. But yes, it is used in the Med. It's also used in the United States. I've seen work on the East Coast comparing reserves with fished areas.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's just one of the tools that we have, and sonar, the echo sounders, I mean, they're getting very, very sophisticated now. And some people can even identify species from the images on a very, very good sounder.
Good fishers can do that. I've seen them do it. It's pretty crazy. I was going to say, like, a lot of these papers you do, like, it's about equilibrium, isn't it? Like, nature has it built into it, these inbuilt protective mechanisms. We just kind of don't understand that you can push an ecosystem so far out of balance that it can't recover on its own, and we see that with like urchin barrens and things like that. Can you talk to that concept? And as a person pursuing your line of work for so long, how do you communicate with average spearos about sort of core scientific concepts like that?
It's very difficult because people get set in their ways, and I think you've just got to keep just pushing the story. I actually take a little bit of an exception with the urchin barrens, because I find that you tend to get a lot of fish around the urchin barrens, and we always used to call it white rock. We never called it barrens, and I just don't think barrens is an appropriate term.
Okay.
People think that a kelp bed is like, it might be more productive in terms of producing biomass, but in terms of supporting fish, they like to have crevices, and crevices is where urchins and crays live. But the urchins, they come out of the crevices to feed, and they're scraping the rocks clean. And so, look, it is a very complicated issue. I take the point that they seem to be advancing further southward now, and that's not good at all, because down around Tassie, they've got that bull kelp, and that's an incredibly structured sort of habitat. So it's a little bit different. But I was just going to say that the concept of equilibrium is a difficult one, because things are always changing anyway. So an equilibrium might just mean there's a lot of change happening all the time. But it's when you get to that tipping point and you tip it over, and then you're in big trouble.
So with a lot of urchin barrens, like, they overpopulate an area, and then the yield of, like the gonads that you get out of these urchins, as I understand it, they get poorer and poorer because there's less for them to eat, and then eventually they starve off and die. But they seem to live a lot longer than people think that they might, and then they can starve an area. And then, do they eventually die off and then the area regenerates? I mean, I don't understand all of it. I've done a little bit of reading, which makes me dangerous, maybe.
All right. Me too. Look, I'm not a great urchin expert, but I am familiar with some of the early research where they have actually cleared urchins away in a scientific experiment, and they found that you go through a process of recolonization, different species of algae, getting all the way up to the kelps. So look, if they do denude,
sorry, it's just
that's the artist boss we were talking about before. So look, if they do crash and burn ultimately, then there's enough of the seeds, if you like, or spores of the algae that they will recolonize.
Yeah.
So it might alter the time scale of those sorts of events. But I'm pretty optimistic that there's enough habitat left. Like, there's a lot of kelp in quite deep water. I've dived in kelp beds off Moreton Island at 25, 30 metres depth, and they're just covered with kelp beds. But you don't see any urchins.
You're talking. I know where you're talking. I've been there myself.
Yeah. Some of those reefs out there are pretty amazing, actually. Yeah.
We had a guy die in one of those reefs when I was really starting to come up, and he.
Oh, really? Oh, dear.
Yeah, because you get a lot of yellowtail kingfish out on this particular reef, and around one of those kelpie reefs you're talking about, and I think he got a muzzle wrap on his reel and tried to wrestle it, and he drowned, unfortunately.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah, but these horror stories are throughout our community. Like, they don't happen a lot, but they do happen as long as we all learn from it, I think. Yeah. I love that feeling underwater when you pull the trigger and you know exactly where that shaft is going. You want something dependable. You want to put that fish that you've been chasing for a lifetime in the boat, in the cooler, in the esky, in the chili bin, if you're in New Zealand. Why do we call all these things different names? Anyway, today's show sponsor, KillshotSpearguns.com, make awesome wooden timber spear guns, a fantastic shooting platform. If you've ever shot a big timber gun, you know the reliability that you get from these things. He mostly makes enclosed track spear guns. Visit him at KillshotSpearguns.com. Use the code NOOB to save $30 on any Killshot spear gun. Ocean Guardian is the world's leading shark deterrent technology, and the great news is they're now partners with the Noob Spearo podcast. You can save 10% on the Freedom 7 or Scuba 7 when you shop at Ocean Guardian. Use the code NoobSpearo at checkout to save 10%. If you want to go there, easy, super easy, go to noobspearo.com/OG, short for Ocean Guardian. Pretty original, eh? Pump in the code NoobSpearo and you'll save 10% on your Shark Shield device. Get into it, get amongst it. Ocean Guardian are doing awesome things for Spearos. This podcast is brought to you by aqualite.com.au. This is the best solution, bar none, for staying hydrated in the ocean. If you're a Spearo, it's an absolute no-brainer. It's a game changer. If you're doing extended trips and the cramp starts to set in and the old body's telling you, hey, that's enough, just get hydrated and it will save you a whole heap of woe. It's a groundbreaking product that can help you to stay hydrated. It's got low sugar, it's less acidic than other options on the market, it's rapid absorption, help you to maintain performance. Dehydration of just 1 to 2% can affect your mental and physical performance by up to 6 or 7%. And as when you're spearfishing, you can tell when dehydration is starting to affect you because the equalization goes out the window. Get Aqualite at aqualite.com.au. It's scientific rehydration that Spearos know and trust. I know because one works there, and that's why we've set up this discount code for you, 10% off when you use the code NoobSpearo at aqualite.com.au. Check it out. Australian-made hydration products tailored for Spearos and a whole bunch of other people that suffer from dehydration too. But check it out at aqualite.com.au. Use the code NoobSpearo to save 10%. Let's return to a few infinite practicalities. Marcus, do you still go spearfishing quite a lot, or?
Not as much as I did or as I'd like to.
Okay.
I'm certainly losing a little bit of my touch.
Yeah.
But yes, I still love spearfishing. I mean, we go out and go after the dolphin fish sometimes on the fads. That's fun, and it's like what we were talking about earlier. You're sort of drifting past the fad and you see all these baby fish that are just hanging there. You see the oceanic leather jackets and baby kingfish. And if you're lucky, there'll be, decent-sized dolphin fish around. So that sort of thing is something I get a real kick out of. I go up to the Barrier Reef at times. I haven't been up for a couple of years, but I've got some friends up there. And I love doing that. And I just love swimming around, here in Sydney. I'm not as good on my legs clambering over rocks to go rock hopping as I used to be. But, I'm still getting out there when I can.
We call him Turtle Boy because he's pretty slow on the land, but in the water he goes all right.
Yeah. Oh, nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'll get to you later.
Yeah. I won't be going out to the fads anytime soon now.
No, that's true.
Talk to me about shooting dolphin fish. You were talking about shot placement before. They're a fish that can cause a bit of havoc. Where do you like to shoot a dolphin fish?
Oh, I like it just behind the gills, really, like in the center. It just holds onto the fish. I've lost a lot of dolphin fish before. I think everyone who's tried to shoot dolphin fish has lost them because you shoot them too high, it rips out. You shoot them too low, it rips out. Like, yeah, they're very easy to lose. But just behind the gills, I find is that best spot.
Yeah, I still haven't shot a big one. I would love to. They're a cool fish, and they're such good eating, eh?
Oh,
sorry. Yeah, I haven't got a huge one. My biggest is 13 kilos.
That's huge. That's huge.
You do get bigger ones out there.
Yeah, you get them to 20 or something, I think. 20 kilos.
Oh, bigger, even bigger. But, they're a thin fish. So, if you don't have a good placement, the chances are it will tear out. And they react, they don't go docile when you spear them. They go crazy. So shot placement is everything.
Another species you've made the shirt on is a kingie. Walk us through your season for chasing them and then what that looks like, if you like, Emma. Like, how do you target them these days?
Yeah, so I guess, I don't know, like some seasons I've found there's just they're everywhere, and then other times seasons I've been out and you hardly see any, or you just see rats. And I just, like, I don't know, I guess sort of October around Sydney, like October, November, or September, October, you get the really big ones coming through. Like you tend to get the 20 kilo plus ones coming through. But it's been quite busy out Sydney lately diving, and if I see too many floats out, I sort of just try and go somewhere else from my usual spots. So just because, coming back to what I try to get out there to get away from people, not to bump into people too much. So but I don't know, like you just never know when you're going to see them. I've seen them in winter before. You just got to be ready. I've seen them when I've just been looking for crays and I've just dropped my gun 50 meters away, and I've just been rock hopping, crawling along the reef, and then they've just swum past me in 1 to 2 meters depth, and you don't even have your gun, and they just swim straight past you. So it's you just never know when you're going to see them, I guess. But summer's definitely the best time of year for them.
Yeah, I completely agree. We used to always think of them being there in summertime, and then we started seeing a few of the big ones sort of September-ish. But now they can turn up anytime. They seem to, to be a little bit less seasonal, but still predominantly in summertime.
What's your minimum size there? Is it
65? It is.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, 65 centimeters.
And now, you're allowed 5 or something as well, aren't you, in New South Wales? Is that right?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked for a while because I haven't speared any. It might be 5. Yeah.
Queensland, you're allowed 2 now, and our minimum size is 60 centimetres. But it's interesting to see how they recalculate them. Like you say, like they want to get at least a season of reproduction out of them before we're taking them out. So, how responsive? Here's a ship fight question for you, Marcus. How responsive do you think our state and territory fisheries management bodies are? Do you think are we doing a good job? Like, and like even if we just pick on New South Wales for a sec, I mean, if you could wave a magic wand, what would be 1 or 2 things that you would change instantly?
In terms of management, or just in terms of the environment?
Fisheries management.
Well, they've got lots of committees. There's a recreational fishing committee, and they are charged with using the license money for research and also for other things like maybe building a fish cleaning station in a place where they need to have it, and stuff related to rock fishermen and safety matters. So look, they're things. I think it's really good that they've got these systems in place, and they've got committees for commercial fishing as well. I think it's just a sort of the problem with people nowadays is that everybody's got a different view, and it just takes a long time to get people moving in the same direction. So, I mean, sometimes you'd like to think, well, fisheries should just say, right, this is what we think should be done. But there is a lot of consultation required, and I don't know how to really change that. I think the structure that they have is pretty good for looking at different issues. We're doing some work at the moment looking at debris associated with recreational fishing, trying to understand if that's a big problem and how big it might be. But it takes a long time to understand what's going on. And then you write a report and it needs to be reviewed, and it goes on and on. So I think it's just the way the world is these days. It takes a long time to actually get everyone moving in the right direction. And even then you're always going to have people who are not happy with that direction. So I've got no magic wand that I say if I was the boss of everything, this is what I'd do.
That's good. You've got a perspective that's been informed by experience and wisdom, which is pretty much the opposite that I have, which is great. Which is why I asked you the question. I think having a series of checks and balances and a longer consultation process is great, because it means that you can't get a dictator in there that has one particular ideology that can kind of just determine what's going to happen from now on. Because and it should be a process that goes through a series of checks and balances. So no, that's great.
Yeah. I can give you one really good example, and that is the kingfish traps that were around a few decades ago. In those days, I was doing a lot of spearing around the Gap off Sydney, and we'd swim around the kingfish traps, and these fish, they were being bashed. They'd put a trap down about 5 meters below the surface. They'd put a mirror in there or some big lump of chrome, and it would attract the kingies in. And, a lot of the time if the seas got rough, the fish, wouldn't be harvested. And so they're all just getting really in bad shape, being scratched on the sides of the cages. And the then fisheries minister, he came in over the top and just banned them. He made an executive decision. And I thought it was a great decision, because we were seeing the damage that was being done. But it's and he got a lot of criticism for that as well. But every now and again, that things are so self-evident that you need to move really quickly. But most of the time, there's always different angles to these things. But with the kingfish traps, I think my personal view was that was a great decision made, as an executive decision, and I thought it was well done. But that's not the norm, because there are so many different competing views.
Well, if you're a kingfish trap person and you made a living doing that at that time, I'd imagine that would have been pretty devastating. So there is always multiple facets to every sort of story.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Ah, cool. All right. We went hot and heavy there. Sorry about that.
Ask her something.
Yeah, I'm going to.
I need to get a cup of tea.
Emma, who are like in your dive crew now? Who are your favourite people to go diving with?
Oh, it's always Dad. Well, just because I feel safe with him. Like, even though I think because I grew up with him next to me diving, he always was there. Like, he loaded my gun. If I speared a fish, I'd just give the gun to him and he'd take care of the fish. This is when I was younger, and like, he just helped me through everything. And I think it's a comfort thing for me. Like, but I've got a lot of people that I go diving with these days. I've got a few people around the area, and one of Dad's good mates, Adam Smith, who lives up in Queensland. He's a marine biologist as well, and he's amazing. Like, he's an amazing diver. But anyone who want to go diving with me, I'm happy to go diving. I just want to go diving all the time. So whoever's willing.
I've heard through the traps that you're a bit of a gun diver too. Do you ever compete? Do you have a desire to compete?
I've thought about it. I've thought maybe I'd do the odd competition. Maybe the Blue Water Classic is probably something that I might consider. But I don't know how I feel about competition diving. I mean, I can't say because I've never done it before, so I don't want to poo-poo on it. But yeah, I don't know. It's like surfing. Like I never competed in surfing, even though I potentially could have back in the day. It's I don't know. I always competed in something like I was so competitive in skeleton, and then I went on to play rugby, and it's almost like I love to just have something where I'm not competing.
Yep.
Even though I do compete with like people who I go out diving with, like you always want to get the biggest fish, don't you? Like, but yeah, it's I don't know. I just like getting out. But
are you a good buddy?
I don't know. Am I?
Have your moments. Yeah. No, she's very good.
Okay.
I'm pretty competitive, so that's probably my biggest downfall. Is if like it's like we got to get in the water. I'm probably going to be the first one in the water, and I'm probably going to be the first one to take a shot for the most part. But that's only because I dive with the old guys. So it's not hard to be first in the water, to be honest.
Boy, am I getting hammered.
Yeah.
You are. You're getting owned. She called you the turtle before, and now she's...
That's a compliment. It's a compliment.
Well, in San Diego, they had these groups called the Mossbacks. And, I don't know if you remember that, but it was a similar sort of idea. It was they spend that much time in the water, they've got moss growing off their backs, and it was a lot of older divers as well. So that's pretty cool.
If your buddy had a blackout on your next spearfishing trip, think, what would the outcome of that be? Do you know how to revive someone from a blackout? Would you even be in a position to do something about it? Or would you be diving, chasing after a fish as your buddy sinks down to the bottom of the ocean? Do you know where most blackouts happen? Do you know what you can do to minimize your risk of having a blackout? My name is Ted Hardy, and I'm the founder of freedivingsafety.com. In my free online course, you will learn the truth about shallow water blackout, the myth of I don't push myself, I know my limits, I'm in tune with my body, how to minimize your risk of having a blackout, and most importantly, how to save your buddy's life if they have one. Visit freedivingsafety.com to sign up for your free course today. Dive safe out there. It's not even that hard.
Freediving for spearfishers at howtofreedive.com will help you to extend your breath hold, understand your body better, and put you in a better position when you actually get to go out spearfishing. This program is not for noobs, as this program is for people who have some diving under their belts and understand some basic spearfishing safety, but it's perfect for spearos who want a guided, easy to follow and complete program with videos, a clear process, and a set goal. The 5-minute freediver works. Get started for free and see if it's for you at howtofreedive.com. There's a tester there. Use the code NOOBSPEARO, NOOBSPEARO, to save some money if you do decide to purchase. Check it out at howtofreedive.com. Freediving for spearfishers, a fantastic way to prepare, especially if you've got a big trip coming up. Get to that 5-minute mark, and it does translate to your diving at howtofreedive.com. So, obviously, your dad's been a massive mentor for you, Emma, in the water, and Adam sounds like he's the same. I've heard a bit about him before in the past. Any other mentors? What were the other sort of resources or things you leaned on in order to get better?
I guess recently Instagram, because you watch, everyone sort of has a GoPro on their head. I don't spear with a GoPro, but I do enjoy watching other people's footage. All the guys up at Coffs Harbour have some really great footage. There's one page, the Nautical Productions, and
that's sick.
They're amazing. Like, I just froth on everything that they post, and not just because they spear amazing fish as well, but because they do post just beautiful footage of
fish.
The fish. Yeah, and I love watching all their stuff. So thanks guys. I appreciate all the stuff that you do, and I think everyone's sort of got their own little footage that they post these days or whatever. So you can always learn something off someone else's shot placements and, you know, how they hunt and stalk underwater. So, yeah,
Have you ever had any like really scary experiences in the water?
Yeah, so Dad and I had a big great white circle us a couple of years back off North Head. I was on the bottom of the water, on the bottom of the ocean, and it was getting dark. It was sort of in winter, it was about 5 o'clock, so it was that dusk sort of time. And I was just sitting underneath a school of yellowtail or yuccas, just bait, and just waiting to see if a kingy came through. And I just felt really uncomfortable in a presence, and I just turned to my side and I just saw it was a 4 meter white just cruising on the bottom, and I panicked as you would, and I swam up to the top, and and when I sort of reacted, the shark reacted as well. It started being like a bit more, it arced up a bit.
Yep.
And I yelled out to Dad, who was probably 50 or so meters away, and I'm like, Dad. And I start swimming towards him, and this shark's underneath me. He thought I had a big kingfish, so he was all excited, and then sees this big great white.
I was more excited when I saw it.
And then it just wouldn't go away. It circled us. It swam underneath us, like right underneath our feet. We were both terrified. We literally just had shoulder to shoulder and just had our guns out. And then it swam away, and then it turned and started charging at us, and Dad actually pushed me behind him to save me, which I appreciate. And but I don't know what I would have done if it had have gone for him. Who knows? I think about it a lot. And then it just turned and swam off. It didn't, it just disappeared into the blue, and we didn't see it again. And we had quite a long swim back to the rock shelf where we got in, and it was a very long swim back. Dad suggested that we cut across the deeper water to get back, and I said, no, we're going along the rock edge, but it was quite a steep cliff, so we couldn't really get out at that point. But that's definitely the scariest moment that I've had. It was horrible, but it was also like an experience that I'm so glad that I had, because to see a white that big, that close, and it was an amazing experience.
That sort of experience is, that could have proved the end of spearfishing for you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, it was that night I didn't sleep. I don't know about Dad, but I just remember getting up the next day, and I thought I just need to get in the water straight away. I need to go. I went for a surf, and then we actually went up to Foster the next week, probably one of the worst places you could go, but we went diving up around Foster area, and then you just had to get back in the water straight away. But we actually since then we're pretty diligent about wearing shark shields.
Okay.
So I wear them pretty much most of the time I go diving. So does Dad. It just is that little bit of peace of mind, and it's a precaution that like you can take, and they're expensive, but they might just save your life as well. So yeah,
they actually partner up with the podcast. People get a discount now if they listen to the Noob Spearo podcast and use our code.
Yeah.
I'll put that in today's show notes. So people go to noobspearo.com/ocean ranges. I'll link up anything and everything we chat up about today, as well as that shark shield. How do you guys fit it? How are you running it down the side of your fins with Sikaflex, or is it just hanging around your ankle? How do you manage that?
Yeah, just use it around the ankle with the Velcro. Okay. I actually liken it to wearing a seatbelt. You're wearing a seatbelt and you get in a car crash, you're not guaranteed to survive, but it lessens the chances of you dying or being terribly wounded. And a shark shield may not work in every situation, but I think it's very good insurance to have. So, and I don't work for them. So,
yeah.
But I use them like in my commercial diving work for research. We have to wear a shark shield no matter where we are, apart from in freshwater, obviously. But And, often we're diving in really shallow water. I've done a lot of work at Lake Macquarie, and I was, one of my study sites was quite close to where a guy got attacked a couple of years ago. And look, it's a real pain wearing them, particularly in very shallow water, because
you get shocked.
The thing sort of drifts past your head, and all that. But as far as I'm concerned, you really need to think very carefully about not wearing one when you're out in the water. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't realize that about you both. That's interesting. Tell me about these shirts you're wearing. What's happening with this Ocean Rangers thing, Emma?
So this is
there you go.
This is my Kingfish one. So I don't want to
nice.
stand up and
so it's got OR on the chest with a spear gun through the middle. That's your kind of your main logo.
The Ocean Rangers, and then so there's got the black, the grey.
Yeah.
And,
nice.
And
then
I hope that's all you can see.
Look at your dad. He's such a fantastic model.
So my mum.
That's right.
My mum drew them all.
Wow.
She's very creative. She's a very creative woman, and I love that I've got mum, dad, and myself involved in it. And it's a bit of a family affair, and I mean, I don't plan on making a living out of selling T-shirts, but I've spent thousands of dollars on salty cruise stuff, and I thought, I'm just going to make my own T-shirt. So I've just decided to do it. It's been, I've been thinking about it for a while, and then as I said, just had a bit of time and finally got things going. So Ocean Rangers. I'm sort of hoping to come out with some hoodies as well at some point, and the next fish to come along is a dolphin fish. I'll do the dolphin fish and then a crayfish eventually, and keep adding species onto my list of things to purchase. So it's just a bit of fun, and I'm happy. I'm happy with them, how they all came out. So
they look
good. Yeah, I like them. I'm going to get one.
Awesome.
Is the easiest way to go to Instagram.com/oceanrangers_apparel?
That's right. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
All right. Sick. Love it. Yeah, I like seeing people do new stuff, and it's celebrating our lifestyle, and it's paying a bit of honor to the fish, because like you kind of identified about that Nautical Productions Instagram channel, like a lot of the froth of that guy's channel is pretty much just capturing the fish in them and just in their moment and in their environment. And I think with your shirts, it's just like it's about the fish. Like, and I think, like the first time you shoot a yellowtail, like it's amazing. But seeing how they move and what they do underwater, they're just such cool creatures. I think if you don't have that and you love spearfishing, there's probably something wrong with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like when you see the schools of dolphin fish, like when you see all their colours and everything, it's like just to be immersed in those, in the fish and all of that. Like if you can't appreciate that, then you're missing out on the best part of spearfishing, which is being around in that environment. That's, to me, that's what being Spearo is about, is being one with that. And I love it.
Awesome. Guys, there's a couple more questions left in the show. Do you like joking around when you're out? Tell me about some funny stuff that's happened while you're out spearfishing.
Oh, look, I think it's not really funny at the time, but I think every Spearo's been caught out when they've gone out really, really early and they've had their coffee.
Here we go.
You need nature calls, and you have to. When you have to go, you have to go. I've had a few experiences where I've been out there and nature's called, and I've looked underneath, and I've just seen like some huge kingfish swimming around, just enjoying, what's just gone down. And, you think about spearing them, but then you're like, oh, I'll just let that one go. But look, we've all been there, I think. It's just part of the Spearo lifestyle. But I don't know. It's always a bit funny when someone else gets seasick and you're not seasick, isn't it? It's sort of, you take a bit of joy in that.
Enjoy their misery.
Yeah. I don't know. What
Oh, I mean, there's lots and lots of little incidents. A couple of sort of things that were really scary at the time and now seem really funny to me. We were diving up on the Ribbon Reef and I speared a nice coral trout, which was instantly stolen by a big bull shark. And it got the flopper caught in the corner of its mouth.
Yeah.
And I was just being towed around the ocean by this thing, thinking, what the hell am I going to do here, you know? And eventually the spear bent almost in half and it dropped out. But I just thought, here I am water skiing and I've got this amazing ski boat that's towing me around. I just thought, this is just so weird.
Bull shark rodeo. That might be a shirt.
It was. I'm glad he was trying to get away from me, but could have been worse. Anyway, that was one thing. I mean, there's sort of countless things. Often you're out there and you're really being serious, and then stupid things happen and it just changes the whole mood, which is probably what's really good.
Yeah. I was just talking about it. Like, I think if you're going out for a day, it's great to have a good belly laugh just to be relaxed when you get in the water, you know? Like, the funniest people you go out with, sometimes it makes it all fun, you know? Because, I mean, that's what we're out there to do. It's have fun.
I was just going to say, it's when they don't realise they're being funny. That's when it's really funny.
We went out the other week to the Fads and one of our friends, Paul, his name is, and he just missed a dolly just before, and then we went out to, you know, we sort of drifted again, and then I was just watching, I was driving the boat and I was keeping an eye on Dad and Paul, and I see him try to get under and he's trying to take this shot and he's realised he's left his weight belt on the boat. He's just blown up because he's just missed again. He's like, oh, my bloody weight belt. Give me my weight belt. I was just laughing at him. But, like, you know, all these little things. There's so much gear that you have to remember when you're diving. I've often jumped in and I've forgotten my fins, or, you know, there's always something that you forget. But it's funny when it's not you. When it's you, it's not so funny.
I shared a mask with a bloke once. We were going spearing in New Zealand. He's a 3 times New Zealand champ, and we showed up at his dive spot, and then he realised he had forgot his mask, so him and I shared a mask and went out diving together.
Swapping.
Yeah, so good.
And that's why I always take 2 masks.
Yeah,
have a backup.
He tells it.
Well, for a while, I had and there's still a checklist. I think if people sign up on the newsletter, like I send it out. It's like, because when you're starting, it's just that muscle memory of like thinking your way through, like, what do I need? Making sure it's in the bag. Boom, I'm headed out the door. Yeah. It's infinitely practical, but
there's a lot to remember.
Yeah. All right. I've got 2 sections to go. I would love to hear what's in your dive bag. A lot of women talk and complain about women's wetsuits. I understand that they are improving. What do you use, Emma, and do you like it?
I just use men's wetsuits, to be honest. Okay. I've got a salt one that I've been using recently, and just a Cressy. I've got a Cressy. Like, I don't have any hips though, so I'm pretty lucky in that way. So, but I just use the men's, and I find them really comfortable. I have worn the women's ones before, and they're not very comfortable for me. But I'm lucky in that sense. I don't have a woman's big bottom and I don't have hips, so I'm sort of I'm quite lucky.
Nice. That's good. What about the rest of your gear? Spear guns, fins.
Spear guns, fins. I'm not a huge fan of flashes. Sometimes I do, but I find I just get a bit distracted by using a flasher. But I just have a little thing that I just sort of use. I did a bit of diving last year with Jago Crossingham in Fiji, and he just had a mirror, which worked really, really well. I keep it pretty simple, just weight belt, fins, wetsuits, booties, gloves, shark shield, and then obviously my gun and my float. Yeah.
Funny story. Back in the day, we interviewed Jago, and he was at, running Freedive Fiji at the time, and he's such a clever bloke. We interviewed him, went for an hour and a half. It was amazing. Like, I was like, this is probably the best interview we've ever done. So much information. Like,
He's a
And
freak.
then, and then the computer died and we lost the whole interview.
No.
Oh, no.
And we had to redo it, and he gracefully agreed to do it. But second time around, like the energy wasn't the same.
Yeah,
Like he was still awesome, but like
and
that was on us.
He would have felt funny about saying the exact same answers as well. So
you feel phony, like you're filming a video or something on a script.
Yeah. No, he's amazing.
Yeah, he's a very clever guy. Amazing guy. Where's he guiding out of now? Is it? It's one of those resorts.
It's one of those islands in Fiji. It's like a really fancy.
Starts with K.
Kokomo.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Kokomo. That's it. So he's there doing fishing charters mostly.
Yeah.
But I know he does some spearfishing charters on the side as well. So.
Okay.
But yeah, he's good to learn off.
All right. And fins, any other gear you wanted to touch on?
Oh,
I just use the diver fins. I've got the diver blades. Dad likes the...
I've got a Molchanovas, pair of those, which are pretty good. And I use an edge spear guns, Tony Hip.
Yeah, Tony.
So I can give him a plug.
Nice.
And I really like those guns. Yeah. And I dived a lot with Tony. He's a great guy, actually.
He's a character. I've got to get him on the show as well. Like he's a very
he's a
funny
character.
Man. Did he bring the dog out with you, Marcus?
Panda.
Oh, well, he's had a few dogs actually. I remember going out off Moreton Bay, and he had a little thing that he brought over from South Africa, like a little ski. It was just flat, like a punt made out of plywood, and I'd sit at the front in a bean bag, and he'd be at the back, and there was no freeboard hardly at all, and the bloody dog would be there. And as soon as Tony got in the water, the dog would jump in the water too, and he'd have to try and drag it back on the boat. It was hysterical. And we went out this one time and got some really nice mackerel and mangrove jacks, and come back to the boat ramp, and there's all these guys with their spiffy fishing gear and boats and everything, and we started hauling all these fish out of the hold, and they just could not believe it. It was phenomenal. Mind you, Tony got the lion's share of the fish, but that was memorable, and I've done that a few times with him. He's moved further north now, so I haven't been catching up with him, but he's an amazing guy, diver. Yeah.
All right, last part of the show, but sort of a faster pace round of questions. I'll just ask you both the same question. Single best piece of advice you've ever been given. We'll start with Emma.
Oh, in regards to spearfishing?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess, single best bit of advice. That's quite a hard question, I guess.
I'll put you on the spot.
I guess to trust mum and dad was just to trust your instinct with things. If you don't feel right about something, get out. So, yeah.
Love it. Marcus, for you?
Probably don't point that spear at me, you bugger.
All right. Emma, what would be your fish of a lifetime?
Fish of a lifetime would be, I love Spanish mackerel because they're such good eating. So big Spanish mackerel, like 30 kilo, even though they're probably got ciguatera, but big Spanish mackerel.
Yeah.
Not always.
It'd have to be a Dewey for me. I got one about 35 kilos, and that's the biggest fish I've ever speared, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are prehistoric, those things. I understand why you put them on their shirt, Emma. Yeah. And all right, last question. Could you describe what the spearfishing experience means to you in one sentence?
The ability to escape the world. For me.
Oh, nice. I like it. And you did it in one sentence. No one can ever do it. Well done.
Look, I'd have to say the same. It's just getting out there and getting away, not having to talk to people a lot of the time. It's great. That sort of sense of the solitary.
Marcus, I would love to pick your brain on artificial reefs at some stage in the future, so expect to hear from me. I hope you don't mind.
Did you see that paper that I wrote on spearfishing, the Alaman Shield?
Was that with regards
back in 1989 it was.
I think I did see that.
Yeah.
It was about competitions and then subsequent years and the impact that we have on an area.
Yeah.
I didn't read it in full. I don't have access to an academic database anymore.
I can send you a PDF of it if you like.
Thank you very much. I'll try and find that article.
Just send me your email.
I'll get it.
Okay.
No worries. But Emma, awesome to catch up with you both. Like, I've really enjoyed it. I knew nothing about you guys before this. You're not like big social media personalities. Despite having like some amazing lives and, both like in sport and in spearfishing, like you guys have been an absolute pleasure to chat with, and I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
So again, go to noobspearo.com/ocean ranges. I'm going to link up everything today, including Emma's Instagram, which is ocean ranges _apparel on Instagram. But if you go to noobspearo.com/ocean ranges, I'll link up some of the research we chatted about today, as well as Emma's former life as a skeleton racer, maybe a video there so people can see how crazy that was.
Yep.
And awesome, guys.
Sure.
Great catching up with you.
Thanks, Isaac. Appreciate it.
Much.
I'll send you a T-shirt. So
I'll buy one.
Yeah.
I'm buying one.
No, I'll send one. I'll send one to you. I'd be more than grateful.
You're a legend. Hey, legends. Hope you enjoyed listening to Emma and Marcus Lincoln Smith. Proper frothers, as you could tell. I really enjoyed learning a bit more about Ocean Ranges Apparel. Go grab yourself a shirt. Celebrate the spearing life, and you can go to Target and you can buy a T-shirt for $6 or something, and some poor person in a third world country made that for you. Or you can sometimes pay a little bit more and buy stuff from proper frothers that are trying to start things that celebrate our spearfishing lifestyle. Go to Ocean Ranges Apparel. She's got the Mulloway shirt and the Kingfish shirt. And I really like the logo design too. It's just simple and awesome. So check that out, Ocean Ranges Apparel. Hey, guys, I mentioned it at the start of the podcast, but the Panama Spearfishing Q&A call is coming up on Wednesday, the 13th of March. Go register for that at noobspearo.com/Panama. If you can't make the live call, then I can send you out a recording after, but it'll be all things Destination Spearfishing Panama, and it'll be a video. So Robert will walk us through a real good overview of the area and why it is such a fishy destination. So come and join us at noobspearo.com/Panama for that. Also, I did mention it at the start as well. We have started the 50-day Spear Ready program. It is designed to help you make the most of your spearfishing trip of a lifetime. If you are not registered and you are interested, go to noobspearo.com/Spear Ready. Jump on. We're still testing it at this stage, and I'm a crash test dummy. You'll be a crash test dummy, but it'll be an awesome thing to do together. We're going to have Tom and I are trying to organize weekly catch-up calls where we check in on the program, see how it's going, what sort of results we're getting, and just trying to stay motivated and accountable, because I think that's a massive thing with trying to prepare for any sort of challenge. This is a 50-day one, but there's some real cool videos in there from absolute legends in our spearing world, and there's a lot of wisdom that people have collected over the years of, if you've spent $15,000 on a spearfishing trip and you've gone there underdone, I tell you what, the next spearfishing trip you go on, these guys have got wisdom, hard-earned wisdom, so they know exactly how to do it. I've tried to capture that, and I'd love to hear your feedback on it. Go to noobspearo.com/Spear Ready, sign up for that. Massive thanks to Emma and Marcus Lincoln Smith. I had a real good time chatting with these guys today. I'm going to try and get Marcus on in the future. I really want to chat about artificial reefs, and I know he has done a lot of research in that area. It'll be really cool to pick his brain. But for now, we are headed in 2 weeks to chat with Daniel Mann. I think this is the 4th time I've chatted with Dan. We talk about getting crepuscular while diving, driving, and spearing 12,600 kilometers on a road trip with his wife. A lot of his YouTube channel videos are from this road trip, the recent ones, and some of them still to come out yet. So come and join us. Dan Mann, he's an absolute legend, a gentleman of the highest order, and I hope you come back for that. As usual, guys, massive thanks to the patrons putting fuel in the Noob Spearo outboard, keeping these wheels turning. Sorry for the longer outro. But again, thanks, guys. I'll see you in 2 weeks for Dan Mann. Adreno stocks equipment for noobers. The gear you need for all things freediving and spearfishing. The Adreno spearfishing team froth on helping customers learn about the latest in spearfishing equipment, local diving, upcoming trips and events for spearos of all levels of experience. There's no ego in there. You're going to meet cool people that love this spearing lifestyle as much as you do. Visit them in store in one of their huge mega stores around Australia. Chat to one of their friendly team members. Take advantage of the Noob Spearo discount code. Save $20 on every purchase over $200 in store, online, easy savings. Pump in the code Noob Spearo if you're shopping online or in store. Mention it's one of their friendly team members and save $20 over $200. That's right. Use the code Noob Spearo in store. Shop with Adreno, our partner for more than 200 episodes. Buying gear online can be tricky. You ask yourself the same questions. Will it arrive on time? Is it actually what I want? How much is the shipping going to cost? Great news, the name you can trust is Neptonics. Neptonics, solid gear that works. Visit Neptonics, buy tough gear. Use the code NOOB10 to save 10%. That's right, use the code NOOB10, N-O-O-B 10, to save 10% on your order at Neptonics.com.
Are you a vegan? Do you find yourself easily offended? Fuck the Taxman is definitely not for you. It's tongue-in-cheek to the absolute max. This is a fishing brand unlike anything else out there, made for our fishing community by Ryan, who is a legend fisher just like you and me. Use the code NoobSpearo to score a free hat of your choice at noobspearo.com/taxman when you spend $100 or more. Flip the lid on self-censorship and get your froth on with Fuck the Taxman. Again, use the code NoobSpearo to score a free hat of your choice at noobspearo.com/taxman when you spend $100 or more. Boom.